Hey there, and welcome to Money and You. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. My search for more fulfilling work led me to career and business coaching, where I stumbled upon a game-changing discovery. Money issues often start with our mindset and habits. You see, our relationship with money is the key to overcoming those frustrating financial obstacles. As an entrepreneur, coach, and problem solver, I'm passionate about helping you create a great relationship with money. Because, turns out, that's the foundation for a limit-free life. Each week on Money and You, I speak with amazing guests about all things money, mindset, practical tips, and everything in between. We're here to give you new insights, education, and empowerment so money can be one of your favorite relationships. So join us for some lively conversations and let's transform your financial life together. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Money and You Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host, and we have a really great show today, bringing back a friend, colleague, and former podcast guest. Actually, a couple times, I think, now that I think about it. And she is an amazing, wonderful woman who has so much expertise in the world of talent acquisition, both helping business owners to hire great talent and also helping the talent to understand how to get these jobs. And in today's world, we were talking the other day, and with AI being so prevalent since the last time she was here, there are really a lot of new job requirements and discussions around AI and what's needed in the workplace and how people seeking jobs can improve their skill level and what they need to impress a potential new employer with respect to this, and also what the employers need. I mean, there's both sides are in such flux and transition right now. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Andrea Hoffer, who's the founder of AHA Talent Experts and creator of the AI-powered Dream Hire Engine. With 30 years of experience in talent acquisition and management, including over 10 years running her own talent business, Andrea recently pivoted from running a full-service recruitment firm to teaching leaders how to hire, engage, and retain great people and building the AI tools that help them do it. Through the Dream Hire Engine, businesses get a complete AI-powered hiring system they own and run themselves. For leaders who want an expert in their corner, Andrea serves as a fractional head of talent acquisition, bringing senior-level hiring strategy without the full-time cost. And through AI Quick Wins, she helps owners and their teams put AI to work on everyday operations, freeing them to focus on the work that matters most and feeling happier and more fulfilled at work, which is always something I love to talk about. Yes. The workplace has really changed since we talked last. You want to just give us a little overview of, it's honestly, I hadn't thought of this until right now, but it's honestly so different than the last time, maybe 2-3 years ago, that we talked about job search and interviewing and hiring. So do you want to, this is a little bit of a tough way to begin, but you want to just throw out a few sort of the highlights of what you're seeing in this new world?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, thank you, Michelle, for having me back. I'm happy to be here. And I feel like this is sort of a theme to my conversations today where people have been asking about that or sharing what they're seeing. Of course, with AI being so prevalent now, employers want to integrate AI into everything. And a lot of them don't know the best way to do it. Some of them think, well, this means I can eliminate jobs and, we'll just do it. And then they'll try and then they'll realize, no, maybe they didn't approach it the correct way and they'll need people to come back. But they don't always know exactly what they need in the outcomes that they're looking for.
Yes.
And in some ways, the hiring process, or at least the outcomes of what we're looking for in hiring, is still the same, even if we're looking to hire people and an AI agent, right? So it's all about just knowing what the outcomes are first, from whether it's a role you want done by a person, and then how that person's going to interact with AI and use AI to get the outcomes. And I think it's changed just in a million different directions for a million different people. It's all been so it's been really interesting watching this. And I've talked to a lot of candidates who blame AI for taking their jobs or for ruining the whole job search experience. And then I talk to employers and recruiters who say the same thing. And I think that we're both trying to get to good, solid outcomes for both sides, right? Which
Right.
really should be the same outcome, just finding the right match, person, job, and of course culture and role. But somehow, because of AI or any new technology, it's made the whole process change, and it's brought some bad actors in. Not all, when I say bad actors, it's been more about the candidate fraud that came in from a lot of it from other countries, where a lot of recruiters now are, one of the softwares they're using, or one of the few, is to help them figure out who of these candidates are actually true candidates and not made up people.
Wow.
So this is something we never would have thought of even a year ago, having
Yeah.
to buy a technology to do this or be concerned about it. But I'm hearing it come up more and more in the recruitment circles.
Hmm. This topic, we could literally talk about this all day long. I'm thinking about people that I've worked with in the last year too, and how different it's been uh, using AI to help with resumes and LinkedIn. And, there are people who come to me with massive amounts of information. I mean, there's articles they've written and bios that, and it's all the assessments they've done. And so, AI is very helpful for sort of synthesizing all of that.
Yes.
It takes my brain a long time to pull and sort and summarize. That's been really helpful. And people obviously can do that on their own. But it makes me wonder, and before you could judge something based on resumes. Now I don't know if you can really do that anymore because AI is making everybody's resumes. And some of them are very generic, which I guess you can see that. But
Mhm.
they're also probably a bit of a higher quality overall. So they don't necessarily maybe lend themselves to being used to sort of sort people out. I don't know. I'm guessing on that one because I'm not in your position.
It's actually one of the biggest topics right now in the recruitment world, and I get asked it probably several times a day.
Oh, sorry.
Where no, it's a hot topic. Where and if resumes are still legitimate as part of the process. And I hear different views on it, and there are different views also according to role. I work with a lot of companies that hire hourly employees, so a lot of entry level. They might not have a resume yet,
Yeah.
right? And you want to make the process as easy as possible. But a lot of the employers still require resumes of them. I would, for that type of role, I would recommend not asking for a resume, and instead just a few key questions that are easy to answer but gives you a snapshot of the person's experience. And then typically what I would do after that is then ask them to do a one-way video, which also has, people have different views on it. I've been using one-way video interviews way before ChatGPT ever
I
came
remember.
into existence. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always been a big fan of them. And we, screening them, not using AI to tell me how people did, but actually watching the videos to get a feel for who the person is. And I think that gives you a better snapshot than a resume. Now, some positions, a resume makes sense as the first step. And, or a LinkedIn profile. I always tell people, make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date, and especially that it matches your resume,
Right.
right? That they see that they don't look at your resume and your LinkedIn profile and think they're two different people, because
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, I have.
Um, but I don't, if you're using AI effectively, then you're customizing your resume so it represents you, and you want it accurate, of course, but it also represents you accurately in the framework of what the job is looking for, assuming the job post was written in effectively. So to me, if somebody's using AI effectively in that way, then that's a win. If they're using AI to get some sort of a generic resume they think is going to get past
Right.
all the recruiters, then that tells me they're not the right person.
That's interesting. So based on the how generic the resume is, that you could actually be ruled right out because like you didn't even bother to put, kind of inject your personality and your character and whatever else into your real objectives into this resume. You just sort of had AI do it, give it
Yeah,
to me.
well, and to your point that you just said a few minutes ago, that you have candidates that come to you with a ton of data, right?
Yeah.
Like different things. I would put it into something like Notebook LM, which is, well, now it's called Gemini Notebook, and it's a Google product that's free. And have a notebook just for your job search. And maybe you would have one for each client, right? And you put all of that data in there, and then you can have the notebook help you create your resume based on the job post. But it's only taking data from your personal experience or things you've written,
Right.
and
Yeah.
not just pulling it out of the internet.
And that's a great tool, one that has honestly been on my list to learn. I have not started using it, honestly, for 2 years now. I think I've been telling myself I need to. But explain to people a little about what that is, because you become a real expert in the AI world and in the tools. And so that is more of an organizing system, correct? Or will you explain what it
And
is?
our organization is one aspect that helps, but think of it as you have a library, and in your library are all the books or informational documents that you trust, right?
Okay.
That you know everything, and so on one particular topic, say.
Okay.
And so you go to this library and you only use sources that are in this library, even if the shelves next to it have other information, but you don't want that information brought in. So
Okay.
essentially, each notebook is its own little library, its own little cloud. And
Okay.
any question you ask it or asset you build, like you could do an informational graphic, you could do a report, you could do a blog, it will only pull information from the sources that you approved and put in there.
Oh,
So
so it's not reaching out to the internet and just grabbing whatever.
exactly.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Interesting.
So there's less hallucinations. I'm not going to say there's none, because there's always that chance, but it's very unlikely, or a much smaller chance with Notebook LM. Or I'm sorry, it just rebranded to Gemini Notebook, so that's I keep
Do
falling
that.
back. But I do a lot of training with business owners, and even now I've gotten interest from candidates on that. But for somebody, with your expertise, say you are working with them on a career, you can train the notebook on your framework, on how you approach with clients, and then put the candidate's data in there so that it applies how you approach
Yeah.
the career, that your career framework, or money framework, because I know you do a lot of money in
Yeah. No, I
coaching.
love that. That's amazing. Um, you know, again, it's hard to even direct this conversation because once we talk about something, I want to go down a rabbit hole. But I kind of want to go back to some of the basics. So we have our resume, our LinkedIn, cover letters. I'm assuming the cover letter is even more important than ever because that's where you connect a lot of dots for people and bring yourself, really genuinely into uh, the conversation with the employer. Is that true? Not true? I've always really pushed people to do, everybody hates doing cover letters. I hate doing cover letters, but I think they're so
And
important.
I'll tell you, I mean, I don't do a lot of full cycle recruiting anymore, but I did for many years, and I don't remember the last time I read a cover letter.
Interesting.
And I
Okay.
rarely ask for one. I usually would pay more attention to the one-way video and then even the resume. So I want, if I did the job posting has very specific outcomes I'm looking for from that role. So I'm expecting the resume to show results they've gotten or experiences they have that I can see a direct match to what I'm looking for in this role. The cover letters, I mean, it's just a lot of words, and it's difficult. Now, there's some clients I've had who said the cover letter shows if they can communicate well, if they can write
Mhm.
well. I always thought that was a little bit of a toss up because even before AI, sometimes people would pay people to write their cover
True.
letters for them or
True.
all that. And then now with AI, it's even more difficult to differentiate, is this really how they write? So I still like having maybe a question that they have to answer at some point in the interview, that they can do by writing, or some kind of exercise, but
Yeah.
not right when they apply, but later on. Now, some people love the cover letter.
Well, I feel like I get it if you're doing the video. That would, I could see where that could replace the cover letter. But, I think of a lot of people that I've worked with who their resume was great, like amazing resume, but didn't necessarily show how they could do something different if they were trying to either elevate themselves or move into something, you know, that was a little bit different than their past experience. So I always felt like the cover letter was kind of the link to, oh, here's a job description. This is why this person with this resume is good for this job. So I always felt like it was kind of that connector.
And that's typically what it was in the past. But we are so overwhelmed with data and information, and recruiters in particular are just
Yeah.
getting overwhelmed. And so the fastest and easiest way you can connect your experience to what they're looking for, the better. And with AI, there's no reason why you can't just customize every resume to
Interesting.
to
Yeah.
connect to what they're looking for, or just have 3 or 4 resumes that connect to specific types of roles,
Yeah,
and
that's
and
that's
use.
a that's a very interesting point. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm a little fascinated by this because the resume always was something that was like this big deal to create a really good one. And so while you would tweak maybe the objective and maybe a couple things here and there, you wouldn't want a resume for every job. You would want maybe the cover letter for every job. So
Mhm.
I think this is really an interesting point that now with this new technology, you can make every resume unique for the job.
Yeah, and that's my expectation. When I
Okay.
was reviewing resumes, would be that, connect the dots for me. I don't have time to connect the dots myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, on to what people, because the employers are now having a higher expectation of many things, both the tools that you're using to get hired, but also what you'll be able to do on the job. I was recently talking to a friend who had, and maybe I already told you this story, but he was a pretty high level CFO. And his job that he'd had for many years had ended, and he was spending his time while he was in a job search mode learning AI, but actually creating financial tools
Mhm.
um, that would help run some of the processes that he knew were kind of like, you know, would show up in the accounting and finance world. And so he had been spending his days really working with AI and developing these wonderful tools. Um, Honestly, I thought he might just go and sell these tools to other accountants, but he did get another job. And when that was a big focus of his interview process was his expertise now in these things and how quickly he could create workflows because of this. So that was how he spent his time. It was very, very directed toward the finance world. What do you, for people who are in between jobs, they're trying to get a new job, what should they be learning? Because it's a pretty broad world of AI.
First of all, I think your friend did exactly the right thing, and it's what I recommend. Earlier today, I was being interviewed on what candidates should do to help make themselves more attractive in the job market today, and that was one of the things I said. Is if you're not comfortable with AI, even if you are, because it changes every hour, to start learning about it. And I had recommended with that one, when I spoke to this person earlier, was you can even just start by creating a workflow that helps you with your job search.
Mhm.
And it's going to take a lot of trial and error. So choose one of the LLMs that you're comfortable with. I like Claude the best. I'm not saying that everybody has to. I have a client who likes ChatGPT the best, so we do some workflows in ChatGPT or maybe Gemini, but choose one of them.
Yeah.
And first, think about the outcomes you want. Maybe you want to be every day. You want to be able to log in and see the new jobs that have come available, but you want them to be very specific to your needs. Maybe it's a certain salary range, maybe it's a certain geographic area, or even better, very specific to the types of projects you want to work on and the outcomes you've gotten before and know you can get. And start working on a workflow so that you get this dashboard every day that helps you to speed along your job search. I am not saying to build something that automatically applies for you and is very generic. I'm saying build a workflow that helps you to get the best outcomes from your job search and makes it a little less stressful and more organized and streamlined for you. So that's one thing. You can also do what your friend did and think about what types of outcomes people in your industry will need and how AI can help with that. So how do you learn this, right? I'm telling you to build a workflow. Well, I did take a few structured classes and got official certifications. You don't need to do that, especially now. There are some amazing people on YouTube giving free classes to help you start. Just go to YouTube and look for the most popular, YouTube channels on learning AI, and just find the person that you connect with the best. Everybody the different personalities will change how you learn. So whichever ones you learn the best from. And then it's trial and error. You can't just watch, you have to start doing it. Because what's going to happen is when you do get interviewed and most employers now, AI is important to them. They don't always know what that means.
Yeah.
If they do know what it means, then they're going to want to know when they ask, what's your experience with AI? They don't want to hear, oh, I ask ChatGPT all the time and it helps me write posts or whatever. They want to hear, well, here's an outcome, maybe it's the job search, that I needed to get. So I built this workflow so it happens regularly, and it has improved my workflow and my outcomes by this much. So you're talking about impact with them. You showed them you understood the outcome you were looking for, and that you would, kind of go back and forth with it until you were getting the outcome. And then you also have to talk about how you as a human are overseeing this and basically holding it accountable. And this is a very short way of explaining the AI competency that Zapier has come out and written guides about, of how they hire based on AI competence, because a lot of companies now are going AI first. There's nothing negative about that. It doesn't mean they're replacing people with AI. It means they want to bring people on who understand how to work along with AI to produce the best results and quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, it's different than the old days when people would say, okay, what software tools do you know? And people would say, well, I know Word and Excel and PowerPoint. It's not that. It's not about like I've used this. Well, I mean, part of it is using the tool, but what you have to go to that kind of next level of what you've done with it. Like what outcomes have you achieved and what
Mm-hmm.
processes have you set up for it? Is that what you're saying, pretty much?
Yeah, and how you hold it accountable. Maybe talk about mistakes. I was uh,
Yeah.
um, yesterday, maybe it was 2 days ago, the end of last week. I made a big mistake with AI. I'm going to admit it here out in the public. I built the content engine a long time ago to do a lot of my posts and
Okay.
mostly LinkedIn because I'm on LinkedIn a lot. And the content engine will daily look for industry news related to talent acquisition or AI or the two of them, you know, connected. And typically I'll find the news thing that I think is the most relevant to what I want to talk about. And I'll use Claude to help me create the post based on the news item. Well, I was in a big hurry and I found one, that I thought, wow, this sounds right on. And I had the point I made and everything was perfect. Well, I quoted the study wrong in the post and I just got bombarded by talent acquisition professionals because I have a decent amount of followers and they're very active and I certainly have a lot of talent acquisition professionals that follow me. And so here they called me out and I get it. I was too quick to not, I just went into the summary of this study instead of what it was all about. So I went back and I read the study and I changed the post and then I put a little disclaimer at the bottom saying this was edited because the original thing was not accurate or something like that. And then what I did, and this is the key piece for if you're interviewing, then I went back to the AI agent that I built around the content engine and said, this is what happened. And I don't want this to happen again. We need to make sure we are triple checking not only the stats from the news articles that we're writing posts about, but also the goal of the study or the purpose. So I went back and forth with it until it updated a scale. And now, of course, I'll be a lot more in the loop on these. But that is an example. If an employer was to ask me, give me an example of a workflow you built and how you hold it accountable. How is there that human in the loop? Well, I can take a stance of saying how I made a mistake and how I learned from it. Those are always great interview
Yeah.
answers, by the way. And, how I won't make that mistake in the future, or at least try
Right.
really hard not to.
Right. Yeah, I love that. There's two great points there. I mean, one, just the fact that, well, it was three really, but one, that you figured that out and reacted to it. But two, that you taught AI what you learned. Your
Mm-hmm.
AI is now, it's just like if you'd had an employee do it, basically. You sit
Exactly.
down with that employee and have this conversation. Um, but third, just what you mentioned about always a good conversation to have, a mistake you made and what you learned. I mean, there's always that question of, what are your greatest weaknesses or whatever. It's still around. It's like a billion years old. But
Yeah.
but these are the kinds of things. It's not a weakness, but it's just something that you learned something from. An event that happened that caused you to learn something new, which causes you to do some, behave differently. Basically, is so that is good. It just the point that you're making that it's okay to let potential employers know that you've made a mistake. I think some people would be really afraid to say that. Oh,
Yeah, I think the reason I mention it is one of my standard interview questions has always been, could you share a mistake you've made at work?
Yeah.
And then I just leave it at that. I don't ask them how they fixed it or what they learned from it, because I've learned over the years that if I ask them how they fixed it or what they learned from it, they're going to come up with something, right? But if I just leave it, they're going to they'll share if they did learn a lesson from it and
That's
are now applying it, they're going to share that. If they didn't, then they'll just end it there, and
yeah.
that's typically a red flag for me.
Right, right. Um, okay, thank you. And Andrea, I want to come back and I'm going to take a quick break, and then I want to come back and have you talk about like who are the most sought after candidates right now in general, and bring this AI piece into it. Uh, so we'll be right back. Take a quick break. Have you ever had a money or career question you really wanted to ask, but didn't know who to go to or just felt uncomfortable even bringing it up? You're not alone. Talking about money can feel intimidating, even scary. And that's exactly what I'm trying to change. That's why I created a free virtual coffee chat, a casual, no pressure 20-minute conversation where you can bring one thing you're wrestling with and we'll talk it through. No judgment, no jargon, no sales pitch, just clarity, ease, and a real answer from someone who gets it. If you've got something on your mind, don't sit in the confusion. Book a spot at limitfreelife.com and let's sip and sort it out. Okay, we're back. That's just a quickie. So Andrea, let's get back to, you know, for the well, I guess for both. If you're in the job search or if you are an employer, is there a meeting of the minds as to what they're really after these days? Or I don't know. I feel like maybe there's not. Like the potential employee might be going into an interview thinking, oh, they'll want this, and the employer may or may not know what they want, A, but B, if they do, what do you do if you have kind of that mismatch now that there's so much more that's possible these days? I feel like it's confusing.
Yeah, I really feel that that define part of the process is important on both the candidate and the employer side. And when I say define, I, I might have mentioned the last time I was on, I can't remember, that my dream hire process or framework. And
Right.
it's DREAM. And the D, which is, the first part is define. And I built an engine. It's on it's driven by AI, but it's for employers to help them to define what they're looking for, and then build their hiring process around that, even the sourcing process and the interview guides and all that. So it's asking a lot of questions about their culture and who's successful in their organization and who's successful in this particular role, and getting really clear on what that looks like, that candidate persona, but even more than that, the outcomes. Because I believe it truly comes to, what do you want from this job? It sounds great to say, we need to improve our marketing, so we need a director of marketing. Well, that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people.
Sure.
So but what does that mean? What is that person in the first week going to accomplish, and in the first month, and especially the first 90 days, so that you can communicate that in your job post and all the other communication you put out there about this role, and it's also integrated into your assessment piece of it, so that everything is being driven by what you actually need. And that way the candidates will be able to self-select out if that's not something they want to do or can do, if it's very clear. So let's say the job post is very clear on what the outcomes are, who's successful there, what they get for being an employee, the give and the get, the benefits, not just pay, but other flexibility, other types of things. And that then goes out into the universe and all different ways that you communicate. You have this role available. Well, now the candidate has a map to, okay, this, I can see myself in this role. I can see myself being successful. I'd be happy doing it. And now I have all the information I need to prepare the resume, to prepare for the interview. So you don't just go on ChatGPT and say, I have an interview for director of marketing at such and such company, help me prepare. You take that job posting and then you take all the data you've accumulated about yourself and the things that you've accomplished and the mistakes you've made and what you've learned. And you put that all in, and then you ask it to help you prepare. And now with the AI, you can actually role play with it, and it can give you feedback. So if it's done right in the beginning, and then the candidate's actually paying attention to the job post, it's like they're giving away the answer. If it's done correctly. And then it's also, the employers now have a very good map to determining, well, who of these candidates are the best fit for us.
Yeah, and it's much better for the employers too, because it's always been a bit of a crapshoot. I mean, there's been confusion on both sides. What the role is about, and then from the employer standpoint, they haven't necessarily. I mean, I do remember you didn't talk about the specific process, but we did talk about just clarity on their part about what they're really looking for, and both sides need to work on clarity, which I think AI is helpful there. I mean, it can question you like a career coach would, or it
Exactly.
can, so help you really define more about what you're going for. This is so interesting. I could see people, and I've known people who there are certain jobs that lend themselves really well to using AI, and so you could figure out how you would use it on the job. There are others, maybe the ones that are much more people facing, sales and things like that, where you might be thinking, how those kinds of ways of using AI might be a little more mysterious, or maybe you feel like they're less important because you're really the main show here, how you interact with people. What would you say to people looking at those kinds of things?
Let me see if I understand your question correctly. So you mean, like, say, a customer service role, how should they prepare with AI?
Yeah, or people who don't really see AI as being a big factor in what they do, because what they do is either more hands-on or more, people facing, where it's less about setting up a system for something and more. I mean, there's a system behind what they're doing, clearly, but,
I would say, like, for AI is going to be integrated into pretty much everything in many different ways.
Okay.
But on the surface, even just learning your job. So, for example, for just under 10 years, we did all the recruiting for a bunch of Cold Stone Creamery locations down here in Florida.
Okay, that's a good example.
And, training was always a challenge. A lot of the candidates or the new hires coming in, this was their first job or one of their first jobs. And there was a lot you needed to learn. All the different types of ice cream recipes, or how to ring somebody up. So I could see, even if your employer doesn't offer it, you could use something like Notebook LM to put the information in and help you learn it, to test you, do quizzes, do flashcards, maybe even role play with a potential difficult situation that comes up with a customer. I think employers should be setting more of that up for the kids, because we all learn differently. And now the newer generations coming into the workforce, they're used to these interactive tools. So if it's not set up to learn your job, then and they have to read a manual, it might be there'll be a much uh, bigger learning curve, right? Because
Right.
they're not used to that. I even my niece, who is now 17, but when
Okay.
she and I are in this like ongoing debate about AI. And ever since I got certified and was, you know, integrating AI into everything I do, she was always making fun of me and saying, I'm going to choose a career that has nothing to do with AI. I'm never using AI. And I'm like, you do realize you've been using AI for pretty much all of your life, like even when you watch Netflix and it suggests shows for you. And she's like, no, and I'm not doing it on purpose. That's different. I'm not, it's cheating. I'm not going to cheat. And I think it was ingrained. This is the school was teaching her this,
Yeah.
right? And she just would not listen to me whenever I tried to give her, and not cheating, but like different ways to improve her studying or anything. And then a few months ago, she was having trouble with an exam. She's an excellent student, but there was one particular class that had a lot, it was a history class, I think. There was a lot of information, and she just couldn't remember some of the things. She kept studying, couldn't remember. And she came to me and she said, is there a way AI could help me learn this? And I was like, I was like, yes. and and then she's like, calm down. I'm not saying AI is good, but and and I said, well, how, she's like, there's just so many things. It was like over 200 years of stuff she had to memorize. And she's like, it's not sticking in my head. I just stare at it for hours. And I said, well, how do you remember things? And she's like, I love drama and gossip, which I already knew about her. Like, especially when she watches TV, she loves those like gossipy type shows.
Right.
So we put all of her study materials in Notebook LM, and I trained the notebook to be an educator, a trainer, but who trains through telling gossip.
Wow.
And I would just hear her laughing in her room.
Oh my God. So
And
close.
I said, and feel free to share it with any of your friends if they want. And she's like, I'm not sharing with my friends. Like,
This is my secret.
right. But she aced the exam, whether it was because of the tool or not, but she won't admit. But
Oh.
it helped her get over that hurdle. And she's a good book smart type student, but it was just so much material. So I tell that story because not everybody learns from just reading and repeating it in their head. We've always been taught the acronyms, or I forget
Yeah.
what they're called, but the little ways to try to remember things.
Right.
Or ways of remembering is like gossip. So we just framed
Boy,
it
that
like
is
gossip.
fascinating. Yeah, that's really an amazing thing. I mean, you should really be sharing that with. I mean, what an amazing thing to be able to use AI to adapt, to your way of learning. That's so.
Mhm.
Um, we're running out of time, which I knew we would because I love talking to you. And you're just such a wealth of knowledge. We could literally do like 8 hours of this, but I want to get to you are helping small business owners. Not only are you still doing your talent work, but you're helping small business owners to implement AI.
Yes.
Not necessarily small, but small to medium, or you can correct me on the size of the businesses. But these are businesses who are ready for processes and systems to be automated in this way, and actually, some of their jobs being handled by AI. So, do you want to just explain? Unfortunately, it'll be brief, but what you're doing, because I think you just blew my mind with some of the things when we talked before that you were doing.
And it's all customized because everybody has different priorities. I'm calling it quick wins AI. It's just a good way to start, and the goal is to get you a quick win. What has either been on your mind, an idea you've wanted to do, that's what I get a lot, for so long, or something that's just a task that you lose stuff for, that you just need some kind of better organization. Um, the organization part is a big one. I work with a lot of business owners who have so much information and documents and projects, and they spend half their time looking for everything or
Right.
trying to remember. Yeah, me too. And I actually even built for myself an accountability partner with Claude. So I call it my PA, my personal assistant, and it actually reads my transcripts each day from all of my meetings. And then at the end of the day, we'll say, did you set up the meeting with Michelle to record the podcast because that was mentioned, or you talked with this client about whether resumes, are important to ask for anymore. This could be a good content for you. Do you want us to write an article for you around this? Or, you haven't followed up with this person from your email because it reads my email and my calendar, my transcript. And, I hate using this phrase because AI uses a lot, but it has been a game changer for me
Yeah.
and has really, truly held me accountable. I mean, even when I forget, sometimes I'm not that great with follow up. Like if,
Mhm.
and so it will say, hey, you haven't spoken with Ron in a couple of weeks, and he said to follow up in August. It's August. Do you want us to write the email for you? And I'm like, sure. And then what I do, of course, is you put guardrails on it. It writes a draft that it puts in my Gmail in my draft folder. So now I spend more time going to my draft folder and reviewing what's in there and tweaking whatever needs to be tweaked and then sending than really in my inbox and having to go through that. So that's just one example. I'm also working with an entrepreneur right now who owns several businesses where she's had, projects for a while of these different programs that she's created that
Yeah.
she wants to bring to the next level and
Yeah.
wants, put all of her content in one place and then create assets from it and really license it. And there's some other things she wants to do with it as well. So you know, we meet, well, in the beginning, it's been a good amount, but, we meet for a certain amount of time and we go through sort of organizing her data and putting it in such a way that she gets out of it
Yeah.
what she needs. Those are just a few examples. Everybody has different priorities of what they want.
But just hearing you even get that much information, I feel like that coupled with your expertise in talent acquisition and hiring, you're going to know the points. You're going to know what AI can do for you. And then when you need to bring in another person
Right.
who can oversee an area that, where things are being done in part by AI, but now needs some human involved as well or more involved. So it's a kind of a beautiful matchup, in my opinion.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm seeing sort of come up a lot is maybe hearing this person isn't successful in the role, they're not getting this specific outcome. And when I dig into it more, I'm like, well, if they're coachable and they're open to it, I can make them more successful by giving them a certain AI setup, right? So it could, if it's just a disconnect as far as they just don't have the skill set for something specific, but the AI is able to bring it in and they're still like dedicated to the role and, they haven't checked out. Or
Mhm.
sometimes even if they have checked out, this might make them check back in again if they're
Right.
interested. But not everybody is open to that, employers and the employees.
Yeah.
But there is a way to. Well, that's why I now say that we're about helping you still build your dream teams. We've always said we help you build your dream teams, but now we say AI and humans.
Mhm. Oh my gosh, Andrea, this is so good. So I can't imagine whether you're a job search candidate or an employer that you haven't some light bulbs haven't gone off for you. And if people want to speak with you further, how do they get in touch with you or find your work?
LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn all the time. It's the best way, and it's Andrea Hoffer,
Yeah.
AndreaHoffer. I can give you the link.
I'll put it at the show.
Yeah.
No, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
But this is so fabulous. So the quick wins, I can't imagine any entrepreneur not like my head is spinning. All those projects that are just still sitting and could have a next iteration and be done in so many better ways, but I never had the time to do that. It's been floating around out there. And you did inspire me to I really want to be using Claude, but I've been using ChatGPT and it knows me, and so I have to figure out how to make that transition. But yeah, I just reached out to it last week and said I'm going to need you to help me in some of the ways that Andrea mentioned. Just to get myself organized. That's my main thing. And so yeah, I was happy to get me on track. So we'll be starting this week.
Great.
But yeah, thank you so much. I know that you have a place to be, so I need to let you go. But thank you so very much. I already want to have you back on to talk more. So
Well, thank you. And I would love to come back.
I love that you're so invested in this and you're so committed to learning and helping people with it. And you make it seem a lot less scary and a lot more useful. So thank you. Okay. And audience, thank you. Thank you for being here. I will put Andrea's info in the show notes, and please follow her on LinkedIn and connect with her. She is just a huge wealth of important knowledge and a lovely person to talk to. So, and thank you for watching the Money and You Show or listening to the Money and You Show. We're on all the podcast platforms and the YouTube Limit Free Life YouTube channel. If you like the show or you thought somebody could use the information, please share it and rate and review the show for us. That helps me to continue to bring fabulous guests like Andrea on the show. And yeah, again, keep listening, keep learning, and we'll see you next week.